I still remember the smell of my grandma's tomato stew bubbling on the stove, sweet, tangy, a little peppery. She'd always say, "Tomatoes are a gift from the garden, but don't mix 'em wrong or they'll bite back." I never understood what she meant until I turned 65 and started noticing how certain meals just didn't sit right. My joints ached a little more, my stomach turned after dinner, and I'd wake up feeling like I had swallowed a balloon. That's when I started digging. And what I found surprised me. Turns out tomatoes, while packed with good stuff like lycopene, can stir up hidden trouble when combined with certain foods. It's not about cutting out tomatoes. No, sir. It's about knowing their enemies at the dinner table. You see, tomatoes are naturally acidic. That's fine in small doses. But if you stack them with the wrong foods, especially after the age of 60, it can quietly feed a fire of inflammation in your belly and even your joints. I ain't no doctor, but I've lived long enough to feel what works and what doesn't. And when I started paying attention to these combinations, the difference was like night and day. Less bloating, fewer bathroom trips, and even my knees thanked me. Quietly, of course. What most folks don't realize is that the damage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just a feeling you can't quite explain until you stop doing it. So today, I'm going to share the top 3 foods you should never mix with tomatoes. You might be surprised by number 1. Heck, I sure was. If this kind of talk helps you feel better day by day, share it with someone you care about and give it a little thumbs up. Number 3, cheese. Back in my younger days, a grilled cheese and tomato soup was the kind of lunch that could warm your soul, especially on cold Midwest afternoons. I'd dip that sandwich slowly, letting the melted cheddar stretch like a little ribbon between bites. But let me tell you something I didn't know back then. Pairing tomatoes with certain cheeses, especially processed ones, can be a recipe for stomach drama after 60. The acidity of the tomato mixed with the saturated fats in cheese makes your digestive system work overtime. And after a while, it starts complaining. Not loudly, but with little signs like sluggishness, gas, or that strange pressure in the belly that just won't quit. These days, when I eat a caprese salad or pasta with tomato sauce and mozzarella, I feel a bit heavier afterward. Not just in my gut, but in my joints too. Took me a while to connect the dots. You see, the high sodium and saturated fats in most store-bought cheeses don't mix well with the natural acids in tomatoes. It creates a kind of digestive traffic jam, and your body struggles to break it all down. And if you're like me, with a gallbladder that's seen better days, that combo can stir up all sorts of discomfort, especially late at night when you're trying to sleep and your belly has other plans. My grandson once asked, "Grandpa, how come you don't eat pizza with the family anymore?" I smiled and said, "Son, pizza started fighting back." And it's true. I used to love a pepperoni slice with extra cheese and a thick tomato base. But over time, it left me feeling bloated, achy, and just plain off. Turns out, the calcium in cheese can interfere with the absorption of antioxidants in tomatoes, while the fat slows down digestion, leaving everything to ferment a bit too long. The result? A stomach that sounds like an old washing machine, and knees that creak louder than the floorboards. Funny how we grow up thinking tomato and cheese are best friends. From spaghetti night to cheesy casseroles. It's a combination most of us trusted. But once I started paying attention to how my body reacted, I saw things clearer. It's not about giving up cheese forever. Lord knows I love a bit of cottage cheese now and then, but choosing the right kinds and not drowning tomatoes in dairy. Goat cheese or a little feta sit better with me, and I keep portions small. I've learned to listen to the quiet ways my body speaks. It doesn't shout, it just whispers through discomfort. Another thing I notice is how certain aches, like the ones in my fingers or lower back, got milder when I cut back on those tomato cheese meals. Could be coincidence, but I doubt it. When you're over 60, every bite either helps you feel lighter or loads you down. And that tomato cheese combo, it was loading me down. It's the kind of thing no one tells you in your 40s, but by the time you feel it, it's already been messing with your system for years. Now, I thank the Lord I've got a bit more wisdom in my choices, even if it means passing on pizza night. I still enjoy tomatoes, sliced in salads, stewed into sauces, but I treat cheese like a spice now, not a main course. Just a touch, and always the gentler kinds. My digestion's smoother and I rest better at night. Sometimes it's not about cutting out joy, but adjusting the recipe just enough to keep joy and health in the same room. And to think, all it took was paying attention to how I felt afterward. That's a gift no doctor can hand you. It comes with age and a bit of patience at the dinner table. Number 2, beans. The sound of beans simmering in a pot used to mean comfort in our home. Pinto, black, navy, didn't matter. Mama would toss in a ham bone, maybe some onions, and let it cook low and slow all day. And of course, there was always a scoop of tomato sauce or fresh chopped tomatoes added in near the end for flavor. It smelled like heaven, but little did we know back then, that combo could stir up a whole storm in your gut, especially after 60. Beans are rich in fiber, yes, but when mixed with the acidity of tomatoes, they become a little harder for our slower digestion to handle. It's like asking 2 bosses to lead the same crew. They end up working against each other. One thing I noticed was how my belly would puff up like a balloon after a chilly night. I blamed the beans at first, but it wasn't just them. It was a tomato base we cooked them in. When you pair acid-rich tomatoes with the resistant starch and fiber in beans, your gut bacteria can throw a fit. That's what leads to those late-night gas pains and the kind of bloating that makes you loosen your belt one notch after dinner. And let me tell you, nothing steals your sleep like a stomach that's gurgling like it's trying to speak. A few months ago, I switched it up. I started cooking my beans separately, seasoning them with herbs and olive oil, and only added tomatoes in small amounts, or skipped them entirely. And wouldn't you know it, my digestion calmed down, and I didn't feel like I was dragging an anvil in my belly after eating. It reminded me that sometimes the way we always did things isn't always the best way, especially once our bodies get older and a bit less forgiving. That old recipe might still taste like childhood, but it doesn't always treat us kindly in our golden years. There's also something interesting about how tomatoes can interfere with iron absorption from beans. Both are nutrient-rich, but when eaten together, especially in large amounts, the acidity of tomatoes may block the body from taking in all the iron beans have to offer. It's like wrapping a gift and then locking it in a drawer. And for us older folks who might already be a little low in iron, that's something to pay attention to. No one wants to feel tired all the time, especially when we're trying to enjoy these slower, sweeter years. Even my Sunday potlucks changed. I used to bring a big pan of baked beans with tomato paste, brown sugar, and bacon. Folks loved it, sure, but I always paid the price later. Cramps, gassy belly, even brain fog the next day. Now, I bring a lighter bean salad with lemon, olive oil, and fresh herbs. Still hearty, still satisfying, but no longer fighting with my insides. It's amazing how one small change can bring peace to your whole evening. Sometimes I think, why didn't I learn this sooner? But I'm just grateful I learned it at all. These days, I treat beans and tomatoes like distant cousins. They might show up at the same reunion, but they don't need to sit at the same table. And since I started separating them, I breathe easier, sleep deeper, and even my pants fit better. Funny how food can be both medicine and mischief. It all depends on how you mix it. Number 1, eggs. The smell of eggs frying in the pan, with a few slices of tomatoes sizzling beside them, that used to be my favorite breakfast growing up. There was something about that golden yolk and juicy red slices that felt like a farmer's start to the day. But somewhere after turning 60, that combo stopped feeling so friendly. I'd eat my usual plate and then get this weird tightness in my belly. I thought it was just part of aging until I started reading more about how eggs and tomatoes can clash inside our bodies, especially when we got slower digestion and more sensitive stomachs. What folks don't often realize is that eggs, especially when fried or scrambled in butter, are high in protein and fat, and they take their sweet time moving through the stomach. Tomatoes, on the other hand, are acidic and can irritate the lining of the gut when it's already dealing with heavy digestion. The two together, it's like putting a traffic jam on top of a construction zone. You get heartburn, acid reflux, and that heavy feeling that follows you all morning like a shadow you didn't ask for. I used to make tomato omelets every Sunday, just like my dad did. We'd toss in cheese, onions, a dash of hot sauce, and eat it with toast. But after a while, I noticed I needed antacids more often. My chest felt tight, like something was pushing up from the inside. Turns out, that's the acid from the tomato kicking back, thanks to the slow breakdown of fats and protein in the eggs. It's like your stomach saying, one at a time, please. But we keep piling it on, not realizing we're stirring up our own discomfort. One morning, I skipped the tomato in my eggs and added avocado instead. That day, I didn't feel bloated. No burping. No reaching for the antacids. That was the moment it clicked. Tomatoes aren't the villain. It's the timing and the company they keep. I started saving tomatoes for lunch or dinner when I could pair them with lighter meals. And eggs? I keep them simple in the morning, with herbs or greens that don't fight back. My mornings feel easier now, like I'm starting the day with a calm belly and a clear head. There's also something about how tomatoes can reduce the alkalinity of eggs when digested together. Sounds fancy, but what it means is they can mess with how your stomach balances acid levels, especially for folks prone to reflux. That's why I always tell my friends at church, just 'cause it looks good on the plate doesn't mean it's good in the gut. We laugh about it, but they've started changing their breakfast too and feeling better for it. Now, I start most mornings with eggs, spinach, and a slice of whole wheat toast. Tomatoes still have their place, just not at sunrise. Since I made that shift, my energy stays steadier through the morning, and I don't get that mid-morning slump that used to have me reaching for coffee number 2. Sometimes, it's not about removing food we love, just knowing when and how to enjoy them. Thank the Lord for the lessons that come with age, and a gentler breakfast. Bonus tip, ginger. The first time I tasted ginger tea, I wrinkled my nose. Too spicy, I said, pushing the mug away. My wife chuckled and said, "Give it time, old man, it'll grow on you." And she was right. A few sips later, the warmth spread to my chest, and by the end of the week, I was hooked. What I didn't expect was how much better I'd feel after meals, especially those heavy ones with tomatoes, cheese, or beans. Turns out, ginger isn't just for flavor. It's like a peacemaker in your belly, calming the storm that comes from acidic foods and slow digestion. Back in the day, we didn't talk much about inflammation or gut health. We just said things like, "That meal sat heavy," or "My stomach's acting up again." But now we know that things like bloating, acid reflux, and even joint stiffness can start in the gut. That's where ginger comes in. It helps soothe the lining of the stomach, keeps food moving along, and even helps with gas. When I drink a small cup of ginger tea after a tomato-based meal, I don't get that tight chest or the late-night regret. There's something old-fashioned and comforting about ginger. I imagine folks in the Old South using it the same way they did castor oil, a little odd but effective. And the best part is, you don't need to buy fancy powders or pills. A fresh slice in hot water, maybe with a bit of honey, and you've got yourself a remedy straight from the garden. These days, I keep ginger root in the fridge like it's a member of the family. Whenever I feel that tomato kick coming on, I reach for it, and thank God for small, spicy blessings. One Sunday afternoon, after a big lunch with chili and cornbread, I felt that familiar bloated feeling creeping in. My daughter offered me soda, but I reached for ginger tea instead. 20 minutes later, I was walking around the yard, light on my feet. No gas, no burping, just peace. It's like ginger pressed a reset button on my gut. That little experience turned me into a believer, and now I tell everyone at the senior center, if tomatoes are your favorite, make ginger your backup singer. Even for joint pain, ginger's been a quiet helper. It's not a miracle, but it softens the edge. When I combine ginger with lighter tomato meals, I feel like I'm working with my body, not against it. I still enjoy my sauces and soups, but now I support them with habits that help, not hurt. The older I get, the more I want foods that love me back, and ginger's at the top of that list. It's a small habit with a big reward. After each tomato-heavy dish, I take 5 minutes to brew a bit of ginger tea. Sometimes I add a slice of lemon or a sprinkle of cinnamon. It's a quiet moment, a kind of thank you to my body. And each time I sip, I think of how much smoother life gets when we learn to listen. Ginger didn't just help my digestion. It helped me slow down, pay attention, and take care with every bite. Funny how it takes us decades to realize that the little things on our plate can make a big difference in how we feel. I used to think heartburn, gas, and tired legs were just part of getting older. But now I see it differently. It's not about age catching up to us. It's about us catching up to what our bodies have been trying to say all along. Tomatoes aren't the enemy. Neither are cheese, beans, or eggs. They're just players in a bigger story. And when we learn how they work together, or don't, we start to feel a kind of peace inside we didn't know we were missing. There was a time I'd eat anything, anytime, and deal with the consequences later. But now I want to enjoy my food and still feel good enough to take a walk after dinner, play cards with the guys, or kneel at church without grunting from the pressure in my belly. That's not too much to ask. And the truth is, it doesn't take drastic changes. Sometimes it's just separating a tomato from an egg, skipping the cheese on the spaghetti, or sipping ginger tea instead of soda. Little choices, made with care, they add up in ways you can feel in your bones. My friend Martha once said, "We spend our lives feeding everyone else. Now it's time to feed ourselves right." She's got a point. At this stage, every bite counts more. And the good news is we've got the time and the wisdom to do better. We've walked through storms, raised kids, seen the world change 100 times. So making a small switch in the kitchen, that's nothing. And when that small switch brings better sleep, clearer mornings, and fewer pills, that's everything. Thank the Lord we're still here to make those changes. Now, I'm not saying you should toss out your family recipes or give up the foods you love. I'd never stop making my mama's tomato stew, but now I eat it with a fresh salad and skip the grilled cheese. I still enjoy beans, just not swimming in tomato paste. And eggs? They're still on my plate, just with a gentler partner beside them. These aren't sacrifices. They're signs of love for ourselves, for the bodies that carried us this far, and for the days ahead we still want to enjoy. Before you go changing your whole diet, talk to someone who knows your health. A doctor, a dietitian, someone who can guide you. What worked for me might not be your path. But I hope something in this story makes you stop and think. Maybe even try a gentler breakfast tomorrow. We're not too old to learn. We're just right. Take care of yourselves. Eat with kindness. And may each meal bring you comfort, not regret. God bless y'all, and thank you for spending this time with me.